I eyed the letter eagerly. The stamps looked fascinating. They seemed to be from Egypt or somewhere far off. Mom promised to give me the envelope later for my stamp collection as she sat down with a cup of tea to read it. "Oh, it's from Bert and Nell," she said. My ears perked up. Uncle Bert's daughter, Jane, was my favorite cousin, and we were the same age. She was a bit of a tomboy, and we'd always had a blast together whenever she stayed over. But more on that in a moment. "They're coming home in the summer," Mom continued, "but they'll be stuck out there over Christmas." She kept reading until she reached the last page. "Oh, that's sweet. Jane sends you tickles and treats." "What a silly girl." I smiled, my stomach doing a small flip. Jane and I had a unique sense of humor. The last time she stayed, we spent hours riding our bikes into the woods with sandwiches packed from home. We'd come up with goofy games like trying not to laugh during tickle contests or swapping hats and shirts just to see if anyone would notice. Being a tomboy, she always wore my old play clothes, but I secretly wished she'd dress in something a bit more girly. Still, those afternoons were the kind of memories that stick with you. And if Mom noticed our swapped shirts when we got home, she never said a word. I'd always had a quiet fascination with the idea of dressing up, but my younger sister's clothes were too small, and Mom's were, well, let's just say not my style. But that winter, two surprising events would end up making that quiet dream a little more real. Mom finished her tea and got up. "Come on, get cleaned up, we're heading out." "Do I have to?" I groaned. She gave me the kind of look that ended the discussion. "I need your help getting a few things from Aunt Nell's list," she said. I didn't know what was on the list, but I tagged along, letting my mind wander back to memories of Jane and our adventures. We left my sister with Aunt Em, who lived nearby, and caught the bus to Bromley. It was a chilly afternoon, but the market square was full of life. Our first stop was the General Outfitters, the place where Mom usually bought my school uniform. Inside, I helped her pick out a tie for Uncle Bert, a few shirts, and a handbag for Auntie. Then we headed upstairs to the children's department. While I browsed a new pair of soccer boots, Mom fussed over a rack of winter dresses for Jane. Eventually, she picked out two smart-looking ones with smocking on the front, both in a soft brown checkered fabric. "Which one do you think she'd like better? Or should I get both?" she asked, holding them up for me to see. I told Mom that Jane would probably prefer the soccer boots I had seen, but that idea didn't get far. "Both, I think," Mom said thoughtfully. "Now, I wonder if she's a size 10 or 11. An assistant appeared nearby. "What do you think?" Mom asked her. She and Mike here were about the same size 6 months ago. To my horror, Mom held one of the dresses up against me to check the length. I tried to back away, but she was having none of it. "Don't be silly," she said. "You two used to swap t-shirts and shorts last summer. You didn't mind then." I turned bright red, clearly. She had noticed after all. The assistant chimed in, thinking she was being helpful. "Why doesn't he try it on quickly? The shop's quiet, and you can use the fitting screen." I hesitated, but Mom was already nodding. "It's a very good idea," she said. "You're helping your favorite cousin, she'll appreciate it." So there I was, behind the screen, trying on dresses for Jane. Mom slipped the first one over my head and tied the sash in the back. She and the assistant gushed over the fit and color, completely caught up in the moment. In total, I ended up trying on 4 different smocked dresses. Mom even spotted a special red velvet dress with a lace collar that she thought would be perfect as a Christmas gift. Yep, I tried that one too, all in the name of cousinly duty. Next, we headed to the shoe department, where the performance continued. I tried on sandals, some strappy patent shoes, and even a pair of red ballet slippers. A couple of boys in the shop noticed and started giggling. I shot them a glare and hoped none of the mums caught my reaction. Mom also picked up socks and a few other items to round out the gift haul. Since I'd been such a good sport, Mom treated us to lunch at Lyons. I got my favorite, egg and chips on toast with baked beans. "Oh," said Mom between bites, "just wait till Auntie sees all the lovely things we got for Jane." You are so good today. Maybe we should give her a fashion show. I nearly choked on a chip and turned beetroot red. Just kidding, she laughed. On the bus ride home, my head was spinning. What an adventure. Secretly, I wouldn't have minded doing it all again. When we got in, Auntie had already bathed Jane and put her to bed. Mom and I sat in front of the fire while she told Auntie all about our shopping trip and how helpful I'd been. I tried to sneak off to my room, but Mom called me back. Can you open the parcels and show your aunt what we picked out? She asked as she headed to the kitchen to make supper. I laid out the dresses and shoes on the couch. They really did look nice, and honestly, I was proud of how it all turned out. Which do you like best? Auntie asked. I shrugged, but admitted, the red velvet one looks pretty nice. She smiled. I'd love to see it on Jane. Just then, Mom came in with supper on a tray and began setting it out on the coffee table. Aren't they lovely? She said with delight, glancing over the shopping bags. And Mike was such a help trying things on, you should have seen him. Honestly, he could model for the catalog. Shut up, I mumbled. I'm a boy, not some fashion show. Oh, don't be a spoil sport, Auntie said. No one's going to see. Your sister's in bed, and it would just be for a giggle. I grumbled, but Auntie looked so hopeful, I couldn't keep saying no. Mom led me into the front room where the dresses were laid out. She handed me the red velvet one and said, just slip it on over your clothes, it's only for a minute. So I did. She adjusted the sash, brushed some fluff from my shoulder, and smiled. That fits perfectly. Let's complete the look. Before I could answer, she handed me a pair of frilly white socks and the black patent shoes meant to go with the dress. I stepped into them awkwardly, watching her nod in approval. She fluffed up my hair a bit, dabbed a tiny touch of powder on my nose, and smiled again. There. Just a bit of fun. No pictures, I warned. Oh, if only I had film in the camera, she teased. But no pictures. When I stepped back into the living room, Auntie nearly clapped with excitement. It's adorable. Jane's going to love this. We sat down to eat, and Mom reminded me, be careful not to spill on it. I nodded, still getting used to the feel of the fabric. Just then, as Auntie turned around with the teapot, she accidentally bumped my cup. A splash of tea landed right on the dress, and my socks and shoes too. Everyone froze. Oh no! Auntie gasped, rushing to grab napkins and help mop it up. Mom sighed. Hopefully we can have it cleaned. I really wanted to send that one to Jane. I'll buy another, Auntie said quickly. It was my fault. Later, after I changed, Mom ran me a bath and said I'd been a great sport all evening. Strangely enough, I didn't mind. It had been silly, yes, but also kind of fun. The dress was dry cleaned and came back looking almost brand new, but Auntie still bought a replacement to send off just in case. Mom quietly hung the clean dress in the wardrobe I shared with my sister and placed the socks and shoes beside it. You never know when we might need them for something like a school play, she said with a wink. Every morning after that, I'd open the wardrobe and see the red velvet dress hanging beside my school shirts. I'd run my fingers across the soft fabric and think back to that funny, unexpected evening when an ordinary shopping trip turned into something unforgettable. I don't know about you, but I've always had a thing for white ankle socks, not in a weird way, just that I thought they looked neat. When I started school, I remember noticing how sharp the girls looked with their crisp socks and polished shoes. Meanwhile, us boys had to wear these thick woolen socks that drooped halfway down our legs. No contest. Every time we visited M&S, I'd catch myself lingering near the girls' sock section, hoping Mom might just grab a pair by mistake. But I never asked, I didn't dare. Then, one year, I was picked to appear in the finale of our Scout Cub show, riding along on the crest of a wave. Skip had seen me sailing my model boat in the park and said it would be perfect for the skit. So Mom dressed me in a white shirt and shorts, and we borrowed a sailor cap and a pair of white ankle socks from my cousin. I wore them with my white plimsolls and, for the first time, felt like I belonged on that stage. After the show, I even kept them on for the walk home and, well, maybe even into bed. They were cozy. But let's get back to the red velvet dress. Yes, my red velvet dress. Over time, Mom even started calling it that. We must find a reason to use your velvet dress again, she said one day while tidying up. I turned beet red and said nothing, but she definitely saw me blush. That year slipped by, and before I knew it, Christmas was around the corner again, along with the church social. There was always a fancy dress parade, and every year I hoped, quietly, to go as a character a bit different. Something fun, something bold. But Mom always managed to steer me into being a cowboy or a tree or something safe. This time, though, it happened out of nowhere. What are you going to wear to the parade this year? Mom asked casually over breakfast while Auntie was visiting. My heart skipped. Auntie looked up and said, "What about that red velvet dress?" Mom's eyes lit up. Yes, he could be that little girl on the radio. What's her name again? It was a nod to a popular comedy show back then. The character would always say, "My name's Jennifer," in this chirpy, exaggerated voice that everyone was mimicking. I was stunned, mortified, and yes, secretly kind of excited. Before I could protest, Mom was already leading me to my room. "Let's just try it on for fun," she said. "You've probably grown out of it anyway." I half-heartedly argued that it wouldn't fit, but when she slipped it over my head, of course it did. Like a glove. "Well, that settles it," she said. "Into the bath with you and we'll get everything ready." After a warm scrub and hair wash, Mom gave my hair a quick brush. It had grown out a little thanks to a missed haircut during a cold, and she tilted her head, thinking. She said, eyes twinkling. "I have an idea." Cousin Jane had finally convinced her mom to let her cut off her long braid. They were moving to a much hotter climate, and the short haircut made sense. She left the braid in a box with Auntie, joking that maybe one day she'd show it to her kids, which earned her a scolding after she kicked the dog mid-joke and was sent to bed early. That meant no more of our usual after-dinner games in the shed, so the evening took a quieter turn. Mom, ever the creative one, had an idea. She retrieved Jane's old braid and, with a dozen pins and a lot of care, attached it to the back of my hair. It surprisingly blended well with my slightly longer than usual cut. Then she handed me the red velvet dress to try on, the same one from our earlier dress-up fun. I slipped it on over my clothes and stood still as Mom adjusted the fit. She dabbed just a touch of powder on my nose and smiled. "Good heavens," she said, "you could pass for Jane from behind." I turned to the mirror and blinked. For a second, it really did feel like I was looking at someone else. "What do you think?" Mom asked. "It's okay," I mumbled, unsure whether to be embarrassed or proud. "Your friends wouldn't laugh," she said gently. "They'd probably be jealous of how cool your costume is." Auntie was thrilled. "Oh, Grace, can't he keep it on for a bit longer?" Mom hesitated, not wanting the dress to get dirty. That's when Auntie had a new idea. "Remember that bundle Nell left behind from the American cousins?" She thought it was all winter stuff. Mom raised an eyebrow. "Oh, I'm not sure. What would Ed say?" "Oh, come on. It's just for fun. Isn't it, Mike?" I shrugged, trying to act casual. "It's raining and I can't go outside, so sure." Auntie retrieved the parcel and out tumbled a pile of coats, skirts, dresses, and sweaters, secondhand, but far nicer than what we were used to in post-war Britain. The three of us rummaged through the pile, and Auntie held up a soft brown woolen dress with lace trim and smocking on the chest. "Try this one," she grinned. I did, and it fit perfectly. Mom and Annie beamed and said I looked just like Jane. Mom insisted we keep it indoors, though, just in case a neighbor popped in. From another bag, they pulled out a pair of brown T-bar sandals and swapped out the socks for some plain white ones from the American parcel. They even found a lovely fawn wool coat with a velvet collar. I tried it on and didn't want to take it off. I felt like a character out of a storybook. Just then, my little sister wandered into the room, rubbing her eyes. "Is that Jane?" she asked groggily, clutching her doll. Mom and Auntie burst into laughter. No, sweetheart, we're just testing a costume. You look nice, she said, then went right back to playing with her dolls. Mom whispered to her not to spoil the surprise. The outfit was for the church's fancy dress parade. It stopped raining, so I agreed to take her out in the garden to play for a bit. Wearing the dress and coat, I felt oddly confident. Proud, even. By tea time, everything was packed away, and I changed back into my regular clothes. Now, not a word to Dad, Mom warned with a playful wink. I noticed she quietly hung the dress and coat in the back of our shared wardrobe. The next few days passed quietly, but as the church social drew near, I couldn't stop thinking about that outfit. Mom and Auntie had already agreed to keep the costume a surprise from Dad. He was usually busy helping set up scenery and lighting at the hall anyway, so he wouldn't see me getting ready.